All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sons of History podcast for 2021. Boy, do we have a mountain to climb this year. I'm Dustin Bass.
Shall I go ahead and give my name, or do I wait like we did last time?
I was hoping you would do that.
Okay. All right. Mandatory silence. And I'm Alan Wakim.
There we go. Beautiful. Well, welcome back, my friend. You were out and about. I believe you said that you were going to be sweeping your floor earlier today, so you were all over the place. How are things?
Sweeping the floor. I don't.
Oh, that's right. You don't, because you
I
live in filth. Hence the reason I had to tell you to go change your shirt.
I don't
You
live
like,
in filth.
yeah, you
I
like how I
don't.
set that up?
I do not live in filth. I should have you know. I actually had to go help Mom today.
Yeah, I know. How's
Yes.
she doing?
Yeah, she's all right. She
Yeah.
repeats the stories over and over again, so I have to explain to her, Mom, you've already told me that story about 1,000 times today alone.
She talked to you about seeing the Virgin Mary or whatever?
You got it, the Virgin Mary again.
Virgin
Did I
Mary,
tell you?
always making an appearance.
Did I tell you that I saw the Virgin Mary? Yes, Mom, you did. You did. And yes, I know y'all are good friends. And yes, I know that you met her in a tunnel or something like that.
Oh, so you don't even really know the story
Uh,
completely.
no, I know the
All the
story.
more reason why she's probably like, I need to tell my son this story before all is said and done. And you won't let her. Yeah, I've heard that story. Tunnel, something, Virgin Mary. I don't know. I wasn't paying too much attention, but
Can we proceed?
yeah, we can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about our book and movie recommendations. I was talking about We've Got a Mountain to Climb. I'm starting off. Here is my book recommendation. Read it.
Let's see your symbols. Is that Led Zeppelin 4?
That is Led Zeppelin 4, baby. No, I'm just kidding. It is The Conquest of Everest. All right, so I read this a couple of years ago because I think it's pretty neat when people accomplish things that are to the common man like you
Okay.
and I unaccomplishable. I guess if we really put our minds to it and dedicated ourselves to climbing high peaks, we might be able to make it. But this was a fascinating story, man. I learned all that goes into, or at least did, go into climbing Mount Everest. How you have to go from one peak to another, and then go up and down to get acclimated to the lack of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of really cool stuff in here. And I'm not saying go find this book because I found this book. I think it was at a like a used bookstore, an antique store. I love going into those places and finding treasures, if you will. But there's a number of books out there that are about climbing Mount Everest. Like the famous one is probably Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. So yeah, good stuff. My movie recommendation along the same lines, Everest. Did you see that movie?
No,
It was actually really good.
no, I have not. I
Really
have not
good,
seen.
really good, very sad, based on the book Into Thin Air. Um, so it's a tough one, bit of a tearjerker. Yeah, and people may be asking, Dustin, what are you talking about? A mountain to climb? Well, if you weren't paying attention to 2020,
Hmm.
that's the mountain I'm talking about. It's no longer we're in a hole. We're just gonna have to dig ourselves out. This is
Yeah.
we're in the
I think we.
valley and we've got Everest ahead of us.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've dug a deeper hole, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane. All right, man. What is your book and movie recommendation?
Okay. The movie recommendation. That I have not seen it, but I actually just recently heard about it. And I do believe also it's kind of difficult to find in DVD. You might have to just maybe watched it on YouTube or whatever streaming services are available, and it's a 1984 miniseries on George Washington, and it stars Barry Bostwick. I don't know if you remember him back in the 80s.
The football player? Yeah.
No, that's Barry Bosworth.
Oh, dang.
Close, close. I know I've seen Barry Bostwick in some movies before. He was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show and a couple other movies, but
But moving on.
yeah, I was told that was a pretty good. I was told it was a pretty good miniseries. The books, actually, I'm going to recommend two books,
Okay.
but they're by the same author, Gordon Wood. So I have two of them over here. One of them is called The American Revolution: A History,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one, and apparently he won like several prizes on this one. It's called The Radicalism of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
our good friend Dr. Mary Graybar recommends Gordon Wood, and apparently a lot of historians recommend him too. So
Yeah, he's a bit of a legend when it comes to American history. So he's written a
yeah,
ton of stuff.
yeah, he has. So he was even mentioned in that movie Good Will Hunting, but
Mm-hmm.
kind of in a bad way. He was making fun
Well,
of,
was it
but
Matt Damon making fun of him?
yep. But considering the source, Matt Damon is endorsing a communist by the
Yeah.
name of Howard Zinn. Um, that in and of itself makes Gordon Wood a top notch from real historians. That makes him a top notch pick.
Yeah, all the more reason to go get one of his or
Yeah,
a number of his books.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, if Matt Damon doesn't like him, then he's a good historian.
yeah,
So
very reliable source.
yeah,
So, um, yeah,
yeah.
man,
The Reddit.
I wanted
The
to
Reddit
do something on like the Bourne identity, but
uh,
I don't have anything.
well, the Born Identity was supposed to be about Carlos the Jackal.
Mm, really?
Yeah,
I didn't
I
know
read
that.
a I read a book about him too. Yeah, I think two episodes. The first and the third movie were supposed to be about Carlos the Jackal, but somehow they made it into an um, anti U.S. intelligence service movie. Americans bad, the usual.
Right. Look, man, I think you and I sort of are on opposite sides of the fence when it comes to U.S. intelligence
How
and the
so?
positives and negatives. Well, I mean, when I look at like the Bourne Identity, I'm not really seeing it as like anti U.S. intelligence. To an extent, I'm like, well, that's a pretty accurate description of U.S. intelligence.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't really see it as
I,
anti U.S. intelligence.
I don't have a problem with assassinations. If you think about it, why
You're a
why send?
sick man.
How am I a sick
You
man?
know that?
Think about this.
I'm thinking about it.
Let's say, okay, Saddam Hussein, bad guy, bad guy. We keep hearing about how Saddam Hussein. How many soldiers did we lose? Casualties, total casualties. 50,000 was it in Iraq? Was it about
Hmm.
50,000? I don't know. I'm guessing.
Okay.
Okay. If we had assassinated Saddam Hussein, I know last week we did a what if, but like right now we're shifting on the fact that okay, he is our enemy at this point. What if we took out Saddam Hussein and his two sons
Okay.
and worked a deal with some other Baathists, like for instance the foreign minister, I think his name is Tariq Aziz, not a
You
bad
say
guy,
you say
huh?
Baptist?
Baath, Baathists, not Baptists, Baathists.
Southern Baptist.
You have Baathists, uh,
Mm-hmm.
other fellow Baathists take over. You work a deal with some of the Baathists, say, okay, we're going to take out Saddam Hussein. You guys can take over, but under the the deal that You get rid of some of the bad things that they're doing. I don't know. I can't sit and think of anything off the top of my head. Um, but for instance, torture, or the treatment of the Kurds, the way you're treating the Kurds, the way you're treating the Shia. Maybe I don't know. Maybe why don't you give them a little bit more autonomy so that they can live their life the way they like? You can still have a nation, kind of like how India does it, where India, I don't know how much the Hindus force themselves on, say, the Sikhs, but the Sikhs and the Hindus don't seem to be killing each other. I don't think. I mean, I haven't heard of an incident since. I remember, was it in the Punjab or someplace back in the like the 80s or 90s? There was some conflict between the Sikhs and the Hindus, and I think it was a Sikh that ended up killing Indira Gandhi, who was the prime minister at the time. You might have to check me up on that. But if India can form a huge nation with different religions and different groups of people, Iraq could have done the same thing. But had we taken out Saddam Hussein and his two sons and not gone to war, think about the 50,000 casualties that we have had. Every man and woman who was either killed or was maimed or lost a leg or whatever. And how much money we would have saved not even going into Iraq had we just taken out Hussein and his two sons. Isn't that better? Isn't that better than?
Well, that's one of those idealistic viewpoints
It
where
is. It is
it is best case scenario.
Correct. Because if you look at Libya, look what happened with Libya. We took out Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah, no, well, there was no plan in place.
Right.
And much like there was really no plan in place when we took out Saddam Hussein. We
Right.
discussed that, but isn't that one of the things that has gotten us in trouble, is going in and killing people, and trying to establish a democracy, or telling people, you know what, if you really want to be successful, like we're successful, this is what you need to do. Isn't that one of the things that has sort of gotten us in trouble in a lot of ways? I don't see how taking out Saddam and his two sons and then telling these guys, hey, we're going to do this. Why don't you, and you can take over and do that as if that is just going to work. I don't see how that would actually pan out.
I'm not saying it necessarily
or
works.
the fact that like that wouldn't require us to actually go to war.
Well, hold on. Okay.
And we haven't even addressed what we're going to be talking about, but this is a little bit to do with it.
But okay, but here's another example. That Iranian guy that was killed in Iraq, just what was it, last year or the year before? That was an assassination.
Qasem Soleimani.
Well, yeah. Okay. Better than sending in the Delta forces and maybe losing a guy or two.
But that wasn't the guy running the show.
I'm just suggesting.
You know what I mean? That's not a destabilizer, as like your leader, your president, or the Ayatollah is like over the stuff. That was a high-ranking general, and it's like if somebody killed our defense secretary. Well,
no,
it would be terrible. It would be very, very bad, and it would be cause for retaliation, but it wouldn't be destabilizing.
Would it be better if we took out, say, Maduro versus us sending troops in to help the Venezuelan? Wouldn't that help Venezuela? I can't think of a negative reason why killing Maduro would.
Well, I mean, look, taking out a terrible, evil leader is like, okay, what do you do after that? Well, then you have to send in your own troops to help stabilize the area, prop up whoever is going to be in charge. I mean, unless, of course, there is the election that took place where it was stolen. Not talking about America, although it does sound very similar. Right. And there, have him go in. But that doesn't mean the military and people who are already with Maduro aren't going to do whatever it is that they're going to do.
Okay.
It's a lot of stuff.
Okay. Michael Corleone took out
Unbelievable.
Mo Green,
Unbelievable, but acceptable
Barzini.
as always.
Took out Barzini, took out Mo Green. I mean, no, but what I'm saying
You know
is,
what's
is that
funny is like I sent Joe Wolverton
mhm.
because I asked him, I was like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show?" And he's like, "Man, I'm not available. I'm not available this week." And I just sent him like a GIF with Michael Corleone kissing his brother when
Uh-huh.
he's like, "You broke my heart."
You broke my heart, Joe. You broke
God, I
my heart.
love
I know it was
that
you.
scene. Oh man,
The
I
way
love
he
that scene.
shook his head, you broke my heart.
Oh man, you know what?
That,
I want to go watch that movie again.
yeah, I think
So
that was
good.
I think that was ad lib. The shake part. I don't think
Yeah.
that was. Yeah. No, but I think if you told the Venezuelans, gave them a heads up, hey, look, we're going to take out Maduro. If you want to, if you want to create a coup, you better do it now. The Venezuelans would be like, okay. So I'm just saying, okay, but we're getting beyond what our conversation is supposed to be. Why don't we go ahead and get into the conversation? What do you say?
How about that? Oh man, it does have everything to do with defense policies.
Uh-huh.
So, and the intelligence community has a lot to do with that. So we're talking about the Biden foreign policies or defense policies versus the Trump defense policies. And you know, Biden is just now getting into office. Just a weekend now. So he's been in what he got in on the 20th. This is coming out on what the 26th or the 25th. So he's been in 5 days. It's too much to say. So we're just going to project, and then we're going to discuss some of the things that Trump did with his what were his policies, what was his administration all about. So we've got a new defense secretary. Wasn't that a horse? Anyways,
Secretariat.
uh, Secretariat. Lloyd Austin is the new Secretary of Defense. One of the things that I think is good is that he sees one and two as Russia and China, but he does see China as the like the biggest threat.
Okay.
They are in first, and I think that is a good thing. The Secretary of State, the current Secretary of State, he was saying that he thinks that Trump was right as far as dealing with China, but he thinks going about it a different route may be best. I disagree, but I will obviously discuss that later on. Um, you know, Freaking Trump had I don't know how many defense secretaries. I think he had like three in the last 12 months, right? Or something like that.
Hmm.
From Mattis to Esper to Miller. So who knows? Anyways, let's talk about some of the things that Trump did that we may agree with, we may not agree with. I do like the fact that he didn't start any new wars, which was a rarity.
Yeah, I know he almost did when those planes were launched to attack Iran, and I think John Bolton put that idea in his head. But from what I've been reading, he while they were in the flight, he's like, you know what? No, no, this is not.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to do this. So
Yeah,
he recalled the fighters back.
right.
And I'm pretty sure that pissed off Bolton and pissed off maybe the defense secretary at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we did come close. And then there was the assassination that was done on that ceremony. Is that what you said his name was?
Soleimani, yeah.
Soleimani. Okay.
Qasem Soleimani.
Soleimani, which I thought was a brilliant move. I thought it was worth it.
Incredible. It
Yeah.
was it was the freaking Born Identity. It was so perfect. I was talking about that
Yeah.
the other day. It's like you couldn't have done a more perfect strike if you had done it in a movie.
Yeah. And he wasn't killed in on Iranian soil. He was
Correct.
killed in Iraq with the sole purpose of planning attacks on either our soldiers or our interests
Right.
or our friends. So the hell with him. The world's a better place with him dead.
Yeah, and it was so stupid for people. Oh my gosh, the bleeding hearts of some people, or just the absolute hypocrisy of people saying, we shouldn't be. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like one of the worst people in the world, and you're going to try to come to his defense. Sort of like
Hmm.
when, what was it, the Washington Post, when Baghdadi was killed, and I think it was the Washington Post tweeted out and called him like a religious scholar.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're sick.
yeah.
You are sick. You want to make it to where, you're unbelievable. That, I mean, it's not, and I'm not using that as like, oh, like you're unbelievable. You're not, I can't believe anything that you're saying because now it's all just so skewed. Anyways,
Mhm.
but no new wars. And even when the Iranians retaliated for Soleimani's assassination, and by the grace of God, and I do believe that was a miracle from God, that when they struck one of the bases, nobody was killed.
Right.
You remember that?
Hmm.
Like they shot all those, those missiles over there, and no one was killed. Absolute miracle.
Ironically, they shot down, I think, one of their own planes.
Yeah. How freaking weird was that?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still wondering about that one.
They shot down a civilian airliner.
Yeah. Who
Yeah,
does that other than Iranians and Russians?
I've never heard of anyone accidentally shooting down their own passenger planes. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, we shot down a passenger plane. I think in when Reagan was president. I
Yeah,
do
that's
remember that.
right.
But
Okay.
I mean,
Iranians, Russians, Americans.
yeah, but I mean, but that's because it was in the middle of a battle, and they sent a civilian airliner over, right over the hot zone. You don't do that. You don't do that.
No, unadvised.
Yeah. So it happened, but
Yeah.
hey, wasn't one of our airliners, so I didn't lose any sleep over that.
What I did like as well as the No New Wars, which I do credit him because there was opportunity. There's always opportunity
Hmm.
with the Middle East, with some of those players, with North Korea, some of those things. I mean, the guy went over to North Korea, met Kim Jong Un, went into North Korea. That
Yeah.
was one of the most incredible things I had ever seen. Any other president does that? They're heralded as, I don't know, I don't want to say the next Messiah, but that's pretty freaking close. Where you're just like, how is this guy doing this? But since it was Trump, it was like, this is so dangerous. He's normalizing Kim Jong Un. And I'm like, okay,
Well,
that's
okay. All right.
enough.
So he's normalizing with Kim Jong Un. You know what? If if it takes away the possibility of nuclear war in the Korean Peninsula and with between North Korea and the United States, I'm all for that, provided it's a good deal. Okay.
Yeah,
Now, I didn't have a problem with Obama having relations with Cuba, provided it's a good deal. Now, if we
right.
give Cuba everything, no. If we give North
Hmm.
Korea everything, no. And it's the same with Iran. If we, okay, if we can establish peace with Iran, fine. However, it has to be a good deal. It can't be all one sided, good for Iran and bad for not only the United States, but all our friends and allies who have been depending on us. And
Yeah.
it's probably one of the big reasons why there have been so many peace treaties or normalization of relations between Israel and several of the Gulf countries.
Yeah. Speaking of,
We do need to mention ISIS.
well, that's what I was going to say. I was
Yeah.
going to say, he actually ended some conflicts.
Hmm.
But you brought up treaty, so I was going to jump to that, but we can wait. He ended some of those conflicts. He actually, he didn't do this whole, okay, let's just continue to send troops and do missions and different stuff like that. Like, let's freaking end this ISIS thing. Once and for all. Let's just do it. We've got the military might. Let's quit screwing around. Let's quit going tit for tat, and let's just drop some bombs on them. And he dropped the most powerful bomb that is non-nuclear the Moab. He dropped that on ISIS, like destroyed their tunnel system, and that helped bring a lot of it to an end. And eventually, it came to an end. Does that mean like ISIS is over? Look, ISIS to an extent is an idea, a radicalism of of Islam.
Yeah, this,
So it's like,
you sound like Biden.
huh?
You sound like Biden. Antifa is just an idea.
No, I'm just saying it's like
Yeah,
ISIS. ISIS is just an I. ISIS could go away,
mhm,
but that idea that instigates them or motivates them is still going to be there,
right.
right? So it's going to be it's going to be ISIS, but under another name. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
just different leadership. So ending ISIS, fantastic. Does that mean that the trouble with radical Islam goes away? By no means, but it is a major positive. So that I think that's really what I was trying to say while doing my best Biden interpretation. Impersonation. Boy, two different words that sound exactly the same.
yeah.
So that was good. Killed a lot of bad guys. Peace treaties. That's huge. The things that he did in in the final year of his first term,
Hmm.
that was insane. Um, he did a peace treaty with Bahrain, Morocco, the UAE, and the Kosovo and Serbia agreement, the more or less the economic normalization between the two, that was huge. That
Well,
was huge. Like,
the
we remember back in
Sudan,
the 90s
yeah,
when all that stuff was going on.
The Sudan is the one that I think really struck me the most because that country has always been just a kind of like I don't know if pariah state is the right word for it, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, we mentioned Carlos the Jackal. A lot of terrorists would reside in the Sudan in Khartoum because it was safe. There was they didn't care what the West said. Um, there was no extradition treaties. Now they did eventually, ironically, they did allow France to go in and take Carlos the Jackal. There was kind of a a deal made, but the Sudan was known as a haven for many of the terrorists, as was Iraq under Saddam Hussein. Abu Nidal was living there at some time. So and Libya. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these countries, the fact that the Sudan itself, there was after the 6 Day War, there was a conference in Khartoum where the Arab countries all gathered together and swore that we will never allow Israel to exist. We will continue the fight. No country will sign a peace treaty with them, and that was held in Khartoum right after the
So,
67 war.
who all was involved in that agreement?
Well, Egypt was one of the big ones, but you had the president at the time. His name was Nasser.
Mm-hmm.
Nasser was a pan-Arabist. He very, very anti-Israel.
Yeah.
Became good buddies with the Soviet Union. He believed in kind of like a caliphate, but not so much as an Islamic one, religiously
So
fundamentalist, but
it
more
was
of an Arab.
Egypt. Egypt. Who else?
Hmm?
It was Egypt in the cartoon. Like what? Who else was involved in that?
Oh, all the countries:
Yeah.
Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and it was just Muslim countries in general. Now, Iran would not have been because Iran at the time was the Shah of Iran was part of
It's
Iran.
pretty liberal too, right?
The Shah of Iran and Israel had relations, so Iran would
So
not have been. But Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Libya, just think of Lebanon would have been one of them. Think of
mhm.
Syria, every Arab nation that you can think of would have been Arab or Muslim would have been involved. I could take a look real quick.
So I mean, did they call that the Cartoon Network?
Were you thinking of that one?
That was a long, long setup for that joke.
Yeah. Okay, it was actually in '67.
That's that's pretty much the only reason I was asking you about how
There
many
you go.
countries,
There you
so I
go.
could drop that joke on you.
Okay, it was actually it was a Arab League summit in '67. It happened on September the 1st, after the Six Day War, which was in June,
Yeah,
and they had what were called the three no's: no peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, no negotiations with Israel.
no negotiations.
What I say? No negotiations with Israel.
So let me ask you a question. Can you give me a little bit of credit for that joke?
Yeah, it was all right. It was good. It was good.
That was pretty good.
I'll
the,
give you.
the Cartoon
I'll
Network.
give you.
All right, let's move on.
The PLO was part of it.
Hmm.
Yasser Arafat
The
and
PLO, that's the People's Liberation Army.
Palestine Liberation Organization.
There you go. Okay,
Yeah.
so he wanted, Trump also was trying to withdraw troops. I know he wanted to withdraw troops from Afghanistan and Germany and places like that.
Hmm.
I think that may have been bogarted with the last National Defense Act that was passed, but I know that that was high on his list of things to do.
Well, I know
Do
that
you?
when he was pissed off because that story that came out a year or two ago that stated that he wouldn't visit some cemeteries in France, World War I cemeteries.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, because they were losers and suckers."
Yeah.
Okay,
Stupid.
that was a complete lie
Right.
from the Atlantic. My understanding is that he made a comment like that, but not about the veterans who died in World War One. He made that comment about the generals, the present day generals who have continued the war in Afghanistan. And he was like, "Why are we still fighting?" He goes, "We went in 2001. He came in as president in 2017." And so it had to have been at least he's sitting there screaming, saying, "It's been 16 years. That's a minimum. 16 years we've been fighting in Afghanistan. This is the longest war we've ever been in.
Yeah.
That includes Vietnam. That includes the Revolutionary War. So this is
Hmm.
the longest war we've ever been in, and we're still nowhere near success."
Right. We didn't have any goals for success.
Yeah, I
Some of
mean,
the things that have been put out for like what is how, can we really withdraw troops from Afghanistan if women's rights are not up to par where we want them to be? That was one of the things in Congress that was put in there. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That was one of the when the Afghanistan papers came out,
mhm,
that was they were like, there is no direction with this war.
yeah,
The people in command, no direction. James Mattis being one of those people. And James Mattis, he was like, well, we've made great strides with women's rights and different things like that. I'm like, really? Is that why we went over there for that war? Is that why we went and attacked the, Al Qaeda and all that? And so that
mhm,
we could. Anyways, all right. So let's go to nuclear strategy.
yeah,
Obviously, we won't get super in depth, but under the Trump administration, there was an increase in nuclear warheads. These primarily were what they call sort of low grade. Sort of, they're not going to do like this massive destructive. It's sort of like a bomb, but it's still nuclear, still extremely powerful, right?
mhm,
So he wanted an increase in that. And there was something called the Trump doctrine when it comes to uh, nuclear strategy. And this comes from an article by the Federation of American Scientists. It says this. Nuclear advocates argue that the Kremlin has developed an escalate to de escalate or escalate to win nuclear strategy where it plans to use nuclear weapons if Russia failed in any conventional aggression against NATO. The existence of an actual escalate to de escalate doctrine is hotly debated, though there is evidence that Russia has wargamed early nuclear use in a European conflict. So this sort of puts us in the realm of, look, the top two the top two threats to America would be China and Russia. And if Russia has this escalate to de-escalate, well, you sort of know what that means, right? It's sort of like the Ukraine situation where you're going to go in and escalate the situation to de-escalate the situation. And that's scary. Where you escalate to win. But um, what do you think about adding more nuclear warheads to America's arsenal that already has nuclear warheads in the thousands?
Well, if the number that we have does the job, I don't see the reason to increase. Now, I'm all for increasing, say, the technology,
Mm-hmm.
make the missiles more accurate, make the missiles have the ability to evade anti-ballistic missile technology. That's what I'm for. But if we have enough missiles as it is to completely wipe out China and Russia, then I don't really see the point in increasing the numbers. Now, at the same time, there's a part of me that I don't understand why Russia is our enemy. I really
Mm-hmm.
don't. There's there's nothing to gain by having a war with Russia, whether
No.
it's between the U.S. and Russia or whether it's between Europe and Russia. I think, if anything, not some. I'm not going to talk about World War II, but if you look at World War One, Europe. The continent was very prosperous, but World War One really screwed up the entire continent.
Right.
It messed things up, and there was a great fear that if there's another great war, it will then lead to the total destruction of Europe, and it pretty much did. Now, they were able to rebuild. I'm not going to sit and say that the Marshall Doctrine did it all. I don't really know in terms of percentages how much the Marshall Doctrine rebuilt Europe. I know it had a good hand, but
The Marshall Plan.
the Marshall Plan. What did I say? Marshall Doctrine.
Marshall Doctrine. I think you're
Yeah,
getting the
yeah,
Truman Doctrine.
yeah. The Marshall Plan really helped out, and the United States really helped out. There was the Truman Doctrine. The Truman Doctrine, we helped out Greece and Turkey. But
Mm-hmm.
with the Marshall Plan, we gave a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money to rebuild Europe, and
Right.
we also helped rebuild Japan. And but I think those countries came to the realization that we can't continue like this. Some wars used to be little regional wars. Like you had the Franco-Prussian War. That was just between two countries. But now, for some reason, it seems like whenever, let's say, Germany and France went to war, other countries like England got involved. Now with NATO, I mean, how many? I don't even know how many NATO nations there are. But if Russia attacked Poland, they're not just at war with Poland; they're at war with like dozens of countries now.
Right.
That includes the United States and England. So it's not in Russia's best interest to go to war with NATO.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
China,
interesting that treaties are supposed to be a good thing, but they've been utilized over the past 100 plus years as
uh,
real negatives
yeah. So I mean,
because it draws all these other countries in.
Russia should just sit there and say, you know what? There's no reason for us to have any type of antagonism between us and Europe or the West in general. And I say that Russia and the West just need to find some way to work things out and become friends. I really do. I think it'd be beneficial for all sides. Now, China is a different story. China is actually trying to escalate a few things. One of the big ones is the islands that they have created
Mm-hmm.
to keep like Vietnamese, Filipinos out of the South China Sea. They also they want Taiwan under their thumb. I I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think we need to help Taiwan. We need to help out any of the Chinese islands that don't want to be part of the communist system. But China, hell or high water, they want those areas back, as they're saying. But that didn't work out too well for Tibet, did it? Didn't work out too well
No,
for it did not work
Hong
out too well
Kong.
for Hong Kong or Macau. So
Right.
Yeah, China is a troublemaker, and they are playing chess right now. They are positioning their people all over the world, making deals in Africa, which is why the WHO is run by an Ethiopian communist. They released a plague upon the whole world, and they haven't been punished for it.
No.
Trump has
You
been
would
blamed.
right. You would think wiping out 400,000 Americans would be a call to arms, but
And,
it's not. It's a call
well,
to blame
Trump,
uh, Americans for not wearing their masks.
right, right. And but my mother watches uh, uh, these church services in Lebanon, and in Lebanon you see people wearing masks. Well, I've said it once, and I'll say it again. I don't recall Lebanon being part of the United States. If you're going to blame Trump, then how do you explain what's going on in Lebanon? How do you explain
Right.
what's going on in Europe? How do you explain what's going on in Australia, Israel, Iran? You can't. You can't blame that on Trump. You got to blame it on the common denominator. In this case, it's China. China
Yeah.
hasn't been punished, and I'm not very confident that with Biden in power, that China is going to even be looked upon as, hey, you're the one, you're the reason why we lost 400,000 people. You're the reason. That
Yeah.
ain't gonna
I mean,
happen.
there's a good chance that that won't happen. I think under the Obama administration, and I think probably in this current administration, it is going to continue to be like an urge for de-escalation, for you know at all cost. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing, because, and I'm not talking about escalate the situation in war, but I'm talking escalate it economically. There has to be some type of retribution to let at least your people know, hey, we care about what the crap's going on. It's interesting though. We bring up Hong Kong. Hong Kong fell to the Chinese, and I think that was a bit of China calling America's bluff and saying, I know that you guys are for Hong Kong. Your Congress has put together a bill, supporting Hong Kong's freedom. Don't care. Doesn't matter. We're going to take Hong Kong. We're going to break this, 50-year agreement early. And let's see if you do anything. And I think they knew Hong Kong is not worth, saving. Hong Kong is not worth going to war over. Um, and I think that to an extent, same thing with Taiwan. Maybe that's different. Maybe it is. But I think Hong Kong was sort of all right, this is our testing ground. Let's see what happens when we take over Hong Kong and we silence these people. We, put it all on TV and everybody watches us shut down these people. And let's see what happens. Let's see what the quote unquote free world does. Free world didn't do anything.
Right.
And I'm not saying we should have gone in there and done anything. I think to an extent though, you're what could have happened or what should happen is some type of sanction against that. Much like there should be sanctions against China for just the human rights violations overall, from the Uyghurs on down. So it's a real jacked up group. I want to go back to what you were saying on Russia.
Mm-hmm.
I agree completely with you. I think, and this is why I was saying that you and I are probably on opposite sides of the fence when it comes to U.S. intelligence. I think the U.S. intelligence agencies need Russia to be the bad guy. They need them to be the bad guy because they're just historically the bad guy, and they're easy to make into a bad guy. And I think
Okay.
we've done that with a number of countries to where it's just like, no, this is not hard to sell to the American public that, country A is our enemy. You don't have to know anything about them. They're just our enemy. And I think Russia is just one of those things that's easy to sell. And I look at it, I'm like, where is the threat? Have they gotten involved in our elections. Supposedly, according to some of the intelligence agencies. But who was
Mhm.
involved in the 2016?
Well, I mean, who was head of the
Who is
CIA?
who is worse? Who is worse at an election interference in 2016?
Right,
The Russians or the Clintons?
right. But now here's another thing: is that who was head of the CIA under Obama
That would be
in tw- in
was it Brennan?
2016?
Brennan
John
or
Brennan.
Clapp? Yeah.
John Brennan. Okay, Clapper was like the head of like all of the intelligence. Like he was like the czar
Was
of
he
intelligence.
was he the DNI?
But here's the thing about John Brennan. John Brennan voted for Gus Hall for president. Gus
Gus
Hall,
Hall.
he voted for Gus Hall. Yeah, he voted for Gus Hall. Gus Hall was a communist. He was of the Communist Party USA, CPUSA. Now, how in the
How
hell
long
is
ago was that?
that was, I believe, it might have been in the 76 election, but I'm sorry, but that should disqualify you right there. That should disqualify you from ever becoming president or ever becoming head of the
Head of the
Central
CIA. I
Yeah,
mean,
head
I
of the,
mean, maybe head of the CIA.
yeah.
I don't know if it should be disqualification for a lot of other things because when you're growing up, you think all these things are good, and then you come to find out when you grow up that these things are not good. So I give him a little leeway there.
Okay.
And I think that 76 election, that's 40 something years ago. He's probably a young guy at that time, probably in his 20s, I would assume. So, but with that, head of the CIA and a former communist sympathizer or whatever. Yeah, I think that's a little odd. That's a lot odd.
Hmm.
I mean, because that's what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't disqualify him for a lot of stuff, but head of the CIA, maybe. So, all right. Trump decided not to re-sign the New START program with Russia. This is an arms control treaty, which is supposed to expire on February 5th, and it limits the United States and Russia to deploying no more than 1,550 new strategic nuclear warheads each. It's like, okay, I don't really. That's that's sort of like an extreme number because I'm like 1,500 nuclear war. You can't deploy those. So, in other words, there can't be 30,000 nuclear warheads deployed at the same time.
Right.
I would think that 3,000 nuclear warheads would be overkill. So, I think that's sort of just, it seems to me a bit of an arbitrary number, you know? It's like, oh no, you got to keep it below 1,550.
Okay. Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, that's
You
still
know,
more than enough to destroy the entire globe. I don't
yeah.
get it.
Well,
Is that
I,
does that make sense to you?
here's the thing is that you and I are not qualified to state how many strategic nuclear warheads we need.
It's true.
Let's face it. Okay.
Let's
I don't
put
even.
that out there.
I mean, okay. I mean, do we want to bomb the middle of Siberia where there's no military targets? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
So I would leave that to the intelligence services, to the military guys. Okay, what are our targets? I mean, obviously we'd have targets all over, say, China, all over Iran, all over Russia. Okay, all
Mm-hmm.
right, great. All right, so what does that number come out to? And then you add maybe another, say, 20% just in case something goes wrong. All right,
Yeah.
put them all on our submarines, let them go. Or maybe not all submarines, but maybe some ICBMs. I'm sure some ICBMs would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd make those really, really powerful ICBMs. I mean, we're talking. I want a bunch of warheads on there, so
We're
that
talking the hunt for Red October.
I want to make sure that if any country decides, hey, you know what, we're going to target the United States, that they're not going to be around to tell the story. That's
Crimson
that
Tide.
Crimson Tide. Isn't that the not Crimson Jihad?
Yeah, a little different.
Remember Crimson Jihad? That was funny. I like that one. But
No, I don't.
Crimson Tide. You don't remember Crimson Jihad?
No.
True Lights.
No, that wasn't Crimson Jihad.
Yeah, 'cause that was Crimson Jihad. That's where they had five nuclear. We will explode one nuclear bomb in an
Is that what
American
they were
city.
called? Crimson Jihad?
Crimson Jihad. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Because I remember what, sand spiders or something like that.
yeah. That's what the. Why does he call himself the Sand Spider? He goes, I don't know, because it sounds scary.
Sounds scary. Yeah, get battery.
Yes, battery. Whatever it is that he said.
Mm-hmm.
Said
More
it in
battery.
Arabic. Yeah, he said it in Arabic. Get another
Go
one.
get another one. Speaking of the New Start program, Biden is saying that he wants to extend that for another 5 years. Another thing that Trump got out of was the Open Skies Treaty, um, and that was allowing America and Russia and I think a couple of other nations to more or less do flyovers to sort of keep an eye on each other, on what each other are doing. And Trump was like, "No, we're going to get out of that." But he got out of that after the election. So it was like late November that he decided officially to get out of it. And
Okay.
that doesn't mean that Biden won't get back in. I think that's probably what he's going to do. Um, so I guess we'll see with that. A lot of this remains to be seen. It's sort of like the Iran nuclear deal that Trump was like, we're getting out of this, and I completely agreed with that. I'm like, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. I'm like, well, you're allowing them to get all of these billions of dollars. I didn't understand, like, even if they weren't going to build a nuclear weapon, and sort of like go against this nuclear deal that
Okay.
was made, even if they weren't, even if they were going to abide by it, you're giving them all these billions of dollars. You're lifting sanctions. You gave them, I think, I think the range goes between like 50 to 150 billion dollars or whatever. And it's like, do you really think that the Ayatollah and the Iranian government is going to put that money back into the economic system or into education or to women's rights or things like that? Do you really think that is where their heart and soul is? Like Iran is like the problem in the Middle East, like the problem among many other problems.
Hmm.
And I was just like, why do you think that that's a good idea? Like this is a country that is not run well for a very specific reason. Um, and to me, it's like whether or not they build a nuclear weapon or not, it's like they're getting all other types of weapons.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah,
I just didn't get it.
they are building weapons constantly. They are causing problems in Iraq. They're causing problems in Syria. They're causing problems. They're supporting Hamas. Um,
And with
they're
all that money, they're able to do it. So I was
right.
just like,
They're
this is
not good.
stupid.
Yeah, they're not good people. Iran is not. And I hear it. I have some Iranian friends who sit there and they talk about, oh, ancient Persia, blah blah blah. It's like, yes, that was ancient Persia. That's back
Mm-hmm.
when they were sane. Okay, these are now Islamic fundamentalists
Yeah.
that that believe in that the Mahdi coming back and killing everybody. That's just not part of the Islamic religion. I mean, yeah, granted, yes, there is a thing about Jesus returning. I understand all that part, but you know,
There's a difference.
there is a difference, and the difference is that in the Revelations, they're actually there to kill each other off. It's between the Antichrist and the Chinese, the kings of the Far East, or kings of the East rather, and they're obliterating each other, and they're on the verge of killing everybody in the whole world. And Jesus comes back to stop it. But in this one, you have Jews that are hiding behind trees, hiding behind rocks, and the tree or the rock goes hey, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him. I mean,
Oh, so the
that's what
rocks and the
the,
trees will.
the rocks and the trees will speak up to tell them that the Jews are hiding behind them. Come and kill them. I mean, that's in their holy books.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and okay, if somebody is going to be offended by what I had to say, hey, if you're offended by that, don't be offended by me. I'm not. I'm only
You're
reading to
just the
you.
messenger, right?
I'm the messenger. I'm not the one that's sitting there saying, "Hey, go kill the Jew."
Yeah.
that I don't,
Jeez.
and nor do I endorse it. No, but
Don't
but
shoot the
that, that's
messenger.
but that's what the Muslim holy books are saying. Some of it,
Hmm.
not all of them. I'm just saying some of it. You know,
Yeah.
we and I know we have to do this every time. There's a lot of sane Muslims in this country, in this world.
Hmm.
I know one guy. I'm telling you, he's a good guy. He is a Muslim, but he's a good guy, and I would trust him uh, to fight with me in the trenches to save the U.S. Constitution than I would over many so-called Christians who are
Hmm.
of an Anglo descent. I would trust that guy more than I would trust some of the Anglos um, who are on the far left fringe. So
Right.
it's
Beautiful.
it's the person's character, the content of their character that I look for.
Yeah.
They become my brothers.
Supposedly. Uh,
Yeah, someone mentioned that. I don't remember who it was.
yeah. I don't even know if people identify with that anymore. It's so sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. Anyways. So one of the things that I was reading is that I think the Secretary of State that is now um, with Biden was saying that to an extent they learned something from the Trump administration. That when the Trump administration immediately got out of the nuclear Iran nuclear deal and reinstituted those sanctions, and it was like crushing the Iranians,
Hmm.
they were like, now we know that we could reinstitute if we did end up getting back and going back to the Iran nuclear deal. We now know that if need be, they call it a snapback, we could snap back to the sanctions that Trump was doing. Undo the deal, get out of the deal, and that would be one of the things. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. But it also goes back to, do you trust the Iranian government to be forthright in what they're presenting? If are they going to let you go in and check their systems, uh, check their power plants and different things like that? Are they going to let you do that?
I
They
Yeah,
weren't doing it, and Americans, the American government was letting it slide.
yeah, yeah.
So
I,
that
I
that was one of the things that reminded me a little bit of Germany after
mhm,
World War One and the Versailles Treaty,
okay.
or the Treaty of Versailles, where it's just like, these are the things that you must do, and then after a while, everybody got tired of uh, holding their feet to the fire,
Okay.
and so it's just like, okay. And I think that it just happened quicker with the Iran deal. So I think sanctions are pretty much always going to be the way to go, especially with certain countries.
Well, it doesn't help their economy, I can tell you that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if the sanctions are working or we don't have to use any type of military force, I'm all for it. You know,
Exactly. And I think sanctions are the best way to go, especially when they're using too much of their money to fund terrorism.
right.
You know.
And the Iranians, I look at Iran in a couple of other ways. Is that I keep hearing that there are a lot of Iranians who want to have peace with the United States. Okay, well, then show us. Uh,
Right.
show us. I mean, they need weaponry. Maybe they need something like a Second Amendment. You know, so you Second Amendment, you anti-Second Amendment people who may be listening to us. Let Iran be an example to you as to what happens when you remove people's rights, when you take away people's rights to self-defense. Uh, if they had something similar to a Second Amendment, they could have maybe overthrown the Ayatollahs at this point. So why you think it'd be why we should do it, to me just doesn't make any sense. And another
Yeah.
thing about Iran is that now that we're becoming buddy buddies with Iran again, how's that going to make some of these countries that signed these peace treaties, how's it going to make them feel? How's it going to make some of the other countries? I keep hearing that there were about like 5, 6, 7, 8 other countries that were going to join the Israel peace treaty or the normalization of relations. How is
Mhm.
that going to affect what could have been just an avalanche of nations saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's just become friends with Israel. Enough of this.
Yeah.
Let's normalize relations. They're obviously doing something right economically. Let's get in on it."
Right. Learn from those who are successful around you.
Yeah, it's like if you have a friend, if you have two different friends, one friend turns you into a better person, makes you success. The other one is a loser. It's better
You
for you
talking
to,
about me?
you know,
I, I'm right here.
when I anchored my boat with yours,
Crap hit the freaking fan.
that's fine.
I am a bit of a curse to people. I have come to find that out. Okay, I don't want to talk about that
Sure,
anymore.
you get. Oh,
All right.
does it hurt you?
Yeah, it does. Space Force.
Yeah. It's already been started, but
Yeah,
so has the wall along the Mexican border, and he
yeah.
shut that down.
Somebody was telling me that they're going to take that wall down. I'm like, that would be. No, I don't think they're going to do
Yeah.
that.
No, they
450 miles. I'm
stopped.
like, they will.
Yeah.
They may stop building it. They'll
Oh
probably
no.
stop building it. But somebody was like, I think they're going to start taking that thing down piece by piece. I'm like, that would be so. You've already spent the money. You've already done the work. Why are you going to take it down? And I think that would cost money to take it down.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that that's going to happen.
No. No.
Space Force,
They'll most likely leave it. However, but they did stop construction.
right? Yeah, I don't think that they're going to add any more to it. And if they do, I'm pretty sure that the media will celebrate that idea as like groundbreaking and wonderful
Yeah.
because it's under the right administration.
They'll celebrate it like the fall
Yeah.
of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, and nobody's going to make fun of the ongoing work with Space Force. Nobody's going to make fun of that, right? It's going to be, oh, this is space is the new war zone, so we've got to, the the media is, I don't even want to, I don't want to get into it. The media is trash. Anyways, all right. So Space Force, Trump brought this in, new military department, hadn't been done, a new one hadn't been created in God knows how long. Um, and according to Lloyd Austin and the Biden administration, this sounds, it's like, no, this is a good idea. This is something that we need to be focusing on because outer space, they I didn't even know this, but I think it was in the 60s. I think it was a treaty that I want to say the UN put together, but it was a treaty for outer space.
Okay.
And I was reading over it. I'm like, that is so bizarre that they're like, outer space needs to be utilized for the benefit of everyone. No one needs to, according to this treaty, no one can stake a claim to the moon and other places. And I'm like, this is how warped the world is that you have to say, no one can take the moon. No one gets to say, I get,
Yeah.
however
The moon
many,
is mine.
millions of square miles of the moon, you
Right.
know. The Sea of Tranquility, that's mine. So,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
I
just,
think I think I think whoever put the first flag on the moon, it's theirs.
finders keepers.
That's right. So
Losers, weepers.
we got to get to Mars before we'll let you know what we'll let China land on Venus. We'll land on Mars.
Okay. You really think that's funny?
People who know about Venus, yes, they would.
You talking about like it's just not inhabitable, or are you talking about men are
It's a
from
th-
Mars, women are
it's like
from Venus?
no, it's like 1,000 degree temperature everywhere you go in Venus. It's 1,000 degrees.
Okay,
It's
dude,
climate.
that joke landed.
I think scientists who listen religiously are probably chuckling right now. Yeah, let's
Oh
do that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they love this show.
yeah. No, you can't go to Venus. Venus is hot.
No,
It's hot. It's a fog covered, smoke covered planet. Uh, the sunlight is kind of trapped inside it and doesn't escape. And so it's a consistent 900 to 1,000 degree temperature throughout the whole planet.
listen, we're Americans. We can do anything we put our minds to.
You want to go land
So
on the sun?
Venus,
You would go land on the
Venus,
sun,
let's go land on the sun. Let's do it.
but at
We can do
night.
it.
We'd have to do it at
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Well, you can't do it during the day, you idiot.
I didn't mean that.
So it looks like Space Force will continue.
Okay.
That's a good thing because the stuff that China and Russia are putting out there, especially China, satellites and different things like that. It's weird that it's a war zone out in outer space, but very bizarre. All right, let's bring this conversation to its closure. Um, I think Trump understood the economics, the power of economics when it came to warfare. And look, sanctions are the way to go. Trade wars are the way to go if you want to get people to, you know, stop doing what they're doing. I think China, what he did with China was moving everything in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, China said, you know what, let's release this plague. And it sort of stopped everything in its tracks. And it's interesting to me that it's a little bit, Trump is a little bit like Ronald Reagan going at, sort of a peace through strength
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, where going after the finances of Russia, talking about Reagan, and then just showing like peace through strength, like our military, we're capable or we're willing to do what is necessary. Talked very strongly to the leaders, the Russian leaders, Gorbachev in particular, and they came to some type of understanding. And then, but they went after the economy of Russia, and eventually brought that thing to its knees. And I think Trump was on the right war path with China when it came to that. And then also continuing to say, look, let's do shows of strength whenever need be. Let's try to talk to North Korea, see
Mm-hmm.
if we can't sort of pull them a bit away from China, and isolate China a little bit, and send our cruisers and our carriers into the South China Sea, let
Mm-hmm.
them know that some things are not going to be permissible, and then all hell broke loose. But I think that Trump was on the right path, and I hope that Biden, to an extent, I don't anticipate him to do everything that Trump does. Obviously, that would be really weird if he did, because he's a completely different personality. But hopefully, it's not a Carter to Reagan back to Carter situation where it's weakness to strength back to weakness,
Mm-hmm.
because I think Obama was weak and misguided in the way that he dealt with enemies in other countries. I think he talked a big game, but I don't think it was more or less the Teddy Roosevelt, um, you know, walk softly and carry a big stick. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was sort of like walk loudly and don't carry anything.
Okay.
So that's the way I view it. Is Obama was not really good with foreign policy, especially when it came to military strategy and deterrence.
Well, that was one of the reasons why when Mondale ran in '84, people were like, "Oh God, we're going to go back to Carter." And I was hoping that that's how this was going to turn out. That people were like, you know what, Trump is like Reagan, Biden is like Mondale. I really did expect to see, based on what I saw, my lying eyes, with
Mm-hmm.
the tens of thousands of people showing up at a Trump rally and the dozens showing up at a Biden or Harris rally.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the same type of landslide.
Yeah.
So didn't quite turn out that way, and now here we are. And I do feel like Mondale would have set us back to the way Carter ran things, and Biden is going to do the same thing. I mean, he's bringing in the same Obama people. I think
Yeah.
Obama's really running much of the show, in my opinion. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing that can be done about it. It's
Yeah.
over. People who are sitting saying, "Oh, I think what's his name? Trump's got something up his sleeve." Nah, he doesn't.
Yeah. I'm really drowning out all those people because I've had enough of that talk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I saw some of it, and I was like going, I part of me was like, these people are saying some of the same stuff I've been hearing for a very long time. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they really know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I talked about that Thursday night. I was like,
Mhm.
how about we rein it in and just focus on what we need to be focusing on, which
Right.
is survival at this point
Mm-hmm.
with all the crap that's gone on with this pandemic.
Right.
So, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings our show to an end. And as always, we like to end on a scripture. This scripture is Proverbs 24:17. It says, "Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles." So, regardless of who it is, I think it's best that you just say, "To God be the glory."
Mm-hmm.
If justice is served, if you were not for Trump and he lost, I hope that, you were like not rejoicing. Maybe you were glad that it's a new administration. I think that's fine. Much like if Republicans or Trump supporters, saw that if Trump had won,
Mm-hmm.
they would be happy. But I don't think you don't need to be rejoicing in people's faces and all that. It's not good. And the Bible
Yeah.
says don't do it. Actually, it says it in a number of places. This is just one of them. Um, so, and when it comes to our enemies, I think that you know let God be God, and vengeance is His. And obviously that doesn't mean that we don't defend ourselves when necessary and utilize necessary means. So, and if people think that that is contradictory, well, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at it on its face. So, I hope that
Well,
made sense. Maybe it
makes
didn't.
some sense. Yes, it does.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that it's like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to fight, right? It's just like that's not technically true. Like you have to defend yourself, you got to protect your people. Anyways, when you're pushed against the wall, you throw an elbow in their teeth. No, you don't. All right, ladies and gentlemen, where can people find us? That'll be up to Alan to let you know. Man,
Okay.
I don't even know. I don't even know where all to find us.
All right. Well, we're no longer on Twitter, but we are still on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we're going to be doing a lot more on YouTube. And if you are listening to us, please let's help us. If you could subscribe to YouTube, we need a certain number of subscribers to get a certain, some of our plans. We're going to be going a lot through YouTube. Now, we also have accounts with Rumble, Gab, and with CloutHub.
Who's running those?
I will be running them, but I just got started with them, and
There
and
we
we
go.
and we will be doing more stuff on them. So
Right.
it's going to take some time because we each have jobs.
Yeah.
We have jobs that we have to do. This is not a full time. Um, we're sitting here every day, all day, every day, writing stuff for the Sons of History. I wish we could. I really wish, but
Oh, I do too.
we have mortgages to pay, both you and I.
Yeah. So,
So,
all right. Well,
oh,
all right.
and hold on. We
Did you
also have
not?
our very own website,
Hey,
www.thesonsofhistory.com.
that's right. Totally forgot.
Yeah,
Totes.
the
Totes
toast.
forgot. All right.
Okay,
Well, is that it? That's all you got?
that's all I got.
Hey, you can find us nowhere else. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And be hopeful. I like to try to be as hopeful as possible.
MeWe,
No matter.
MeWe, MeWe, MeWe. We're
Oh
on MeWe.
gosh.
We're on MeWe.
Have you even posted anything on MeWe yet?
No, not yet. Oh, yes.
Exactly.
Hold on. One of them I did. There was some guy that wanted me to
Whoa.
do like an echo of a recall for Gavin Newsom from California. And I said to him, I'll do it on my own personal page, but we don't want the Sons of History to be, these political,
Yeah.
we're history people.
Yeah.
We'll talk about politics from a historical perspective, but
Hmm.
we're not going to just start echoing or
Right.
retweeting. Oh, let's get rid of so and so governor.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a story about California, from a historical perspective, yeah, we'll be more than happy to uh, echo it, retweet, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go. Okay. And there you go. Bye
There you
bye,
go.
everyone.